Please hang up and try again.
Freak Radio Network, broadcasting from the Lucas Oil Studios.
Driven by General Tire.
It's Speed Freaks. Motorsports Radio redefined with Kenny Sargent.
We love to party.
Crash Gladys.
What are we doing for the bachelorette party?
And Statman.
I am serious.
Here's the Freaks.
IndyCar or NASCAR, they both got issues at Texas. We'll get to that coming up sometime here in the Freak Nation. A big show for you. Doug Kalitta, 1,079 days since his last win. What did he do last weekend? He got himself his first win in almost 3 freaking years, NHRA Top Fueler. He's going to be here in the Freak Nation. Christian Rasmussen, who won the IndyCar NXT championship, he'll be moving on to IndyCar. He's got a whole lot of money that he wants to spend with somebody. We'll get to that. Also, Crasher, Brent Cruz will be here in the Freak Nation. Tell the Freak Nation about Brent Cruz.
He was awarded the Trans Am win just a couple of weeks ago, and without giving anything else away,
right?
We'll get to him as to how some cars, the winner was the car who crossed the finish line first was disqualified. Brent Cruz was awarded the TA2 win.
Statman, has your car ever been disqualified when you pulled into your favorite auto parts dealer and say, get that thing out of here or bring it on in here because we can take care of it?
Well, the greatest disqualification that I can talk about is the one where I was disqualified from practicing on the Forum parking lot.
Yep.
Oh, that's right.
That was a major disqualification, and I can only be happy that they didn't call the police. I think they were too incredulous to believe that I had a Formula 5000 car whipping around the Forum parking lot.
Sir,
how did you get a Formula 5000 car into a parking lot, one of Los Angeles's largest parking lots? How in the heck did you do that?
Hey, they didn't have. Since then, they've put iron bars across the entrance so you can't get in. But in those days, we pulled the tow car, the trailer, and an extra car and set it up. And we had a nice little lap around both sides of the Forum.
Lap.
Great.
The president of NASCAR, Steve Phelps, opens up to the Freak Nation. We will get to that interview coming up next segment. So, yeah, man, 2 hours of the Freaks and the Freak Radio Network, and, of course, on MAV TV, 23 years on this freaking network. Again, we'd like to welcome in St. Louis, KTLK here in the Freak Nation. It's my understanding that we got a new affiliate in Roanoke, Virginia, joining us here in the Freak Nation. Statman. So anywhere
close to some friends of mine. Yeah, I could call somebody and tell them, hey, I'm visiting.
Statman, Virginia's for lovers.
Oh,
are they lovers?
Yeah.
No, these aren't lovers.
What?
No, I mean, but are they friends of your, like, you love them?
They're close friends, yeah.
Okay,
the one I have known longer than some of the people in my family. So
answers that.
Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the website, speedfreaks.tv. Texas at NASCAR at Texas. You go back to 2011, and there wasn't a seat in the house that you could find there for the NASCAR race. On the backstretch, when they built those stands, they anticipated that those stands would be full and full of RVs behind those stands. It's not happening anymore. Speaking of filling the stands, as you've seen over the last 10 years or so, Crasher, IndyCar, one of the greatest venues ever to house IndyCar races, the fans have dwindled to, you can't say tens of thousands. No. You can say thousands of people with the IndyCar Series race. And frankly, as Joseph Newgarden says, IndyCar Texas this year was the best race that we've had so far. There was inclement weather that was happening outside the track, which provided some of the backdrop to that race, Crasher.
Well, to the race to the finish, like literally racing, let's get this thing in before the tornadoes come kind of race. But still, he might be biased because he crossed the line first. He took the win, but it was a spectacular race. And you are right, Kenny, that The Texas Motor Speedway has provided a backdrop for spectacular IndyCar races, not just at the finish line, but from start to finish. Lately, since I'd say 2016, it hasn't always been as dynamic as it was at the start. But this past year, oh yeah, it was. It was good. And it deserves to come back, is what I'm going to say.
Statman, the point of this conversation is Texas Motor Speedway is in limbo for a couple of reasons for the IndyCar series. One, where this all started was with the IndyCar series. It's on NBC and, of course, Peacock, and we know that's where the Olympics are next year. And there's going to be about 3 weeks of dark IndyCar racing. Well, we don't know yet. We don't know what the schedule is going to provide.
That's the assumption. And so many people are talking about how, yes, IndyCar will be dark, kind of like Formula One does in their summer break.
Right.
They'll be dark for 3 weeks in August.
But Statman, the big talk is that IndyCar, at least next year, may not go back to Texas, which frankly would be a disappointment strictly from a visual racing perspective.
You know, when I first saw this story, it came to mind that a friend of the Freaks, Eddie Gossage, who used to run the Texas Motor Speedway, he's no longer there. So I can imagine that some of the negotiation around the table of what's going to happen and how it's going to happen might be affected by the fact that his brilliance isn't at the table anymore.
That's such a good point. He wanted all series there as much as possible. So, yes, he fought for IndyCar. Will the TMS brass do that now? It remains to be seen. I know the Penske Group, Penske Entertainment Corp, wants to come back. And I know TMS is saying verbally they want IndyCar back. But again, are you going to put the races back to back in the springtime, NASCAR and IndyCar? That doesn't seem to make sense, especially when both audiences are very much dwindling at that facility. And then if you do that, arguably the only time that works is surrounding Easter weekend. So it's just, there's just so much at play here. The weather in the summer doesn't help because neither series wants to race there in the summertime. But IndyCar, maybe they just have to push their series out a little bit more, push that Nashville finale out, and let Texas slide in a fall date.
What's also in play here is TMS promotes and provides promotion for the NASCAR race down in Austin. So there's that play in here. And as we have found out dealing with a number of these tracks, Phoenix Raceway in particular, it takes months in planning. It takes hundreds of individuals from NASCAR to the track itself to plan this race and to plan it precisely to land on the said time that the broadcast networks want it. So there's so many things in play here. And I guess the initial cog is the fact that the Olympics and NBC, that's the big issue. Crasher, you mentioned that there was discussion about running back-to-back weekends with NASCAR and IndyCar. There are people that don't believe those series cross over as a fan base in Texas. I think that is completely wrong. We see the same demographics at that IndyCar race that we do see at NASCAR, just not as many of them there at the NASCAR race. So frankly, Crash, I'm not sure what the hell they're going to do other than, Crasher, like you said, extend the series to where we can get a Texas in there because they're not going to run
the season.
Extend the season. They ran one time, I think it was COVID, when they ran one time in August. But the Texas heat from freaking June to September is brutal. So I don't know if we got an answer in this last 6 minutes that we discussed here.
We didn't, except bringing it back to June. I mean, I know it was hot, but they did race there for many years, the second weekend of June. They could do that again. You could rearrange the summer, IndyCar. Don't say you can't, because you can.
I think the one thing is not maybe top three on the agenda that we just mentioned, but I think one thing that we can't deny is that we're going by what the people are telling us. And we don't know what's going on at the table or in the phone calls or the Zoom calls. The answer, when my favorite podcast, the answer to all your questions is money. So maybe if more money was exchanging hands, coming back and forth, if you could buy your way into the stuff, then maybe that might change a lot of opinions. The answer to all your questions is money.
This conversation is going to dovetail into a conversation we're going to have later in the show, the popularity of IndyCar. It has increased as far as numbers go on TV, not exponentially. We'll get to that, but it also plays into the popularity of IndyCar at certain tracks. And one, frankly, at Texas Motor Speedway, when there was 70, 80,000 people initially watching these IndyCar races, and some of the most fantastic finishes of all of IndyCar there at Texas, whether it was Al Unser Jr., whether it was Jeff Ward,
Sam Hornish. There's spectacular. Elio Castroneves. There's, so many amazing finishes.
I think Ward won a race it was in the 10,000s, wasn't it? It was an incredible finish.
Mm-hmm.
And almost a photo finish. You had to figure out who won the thing.
And if I can do this on TV, you can't see it on radio. I'm going to scoot up in my seat. This is the way IndyCar races were. It's like, oh. And that was for the damn near the full race. Because, again, it's a 1.5-mile track.
Oh, yeah, you were like this. You're like, oh, my God.
These guys are hauling ass. And you're acting like it's the last 4 or 5 laps, the full 250 laps of that race. Because, again, no fenders, Freak Nation. And these guys and gals were getting after it, going into 1 and going into 3. The entire IndyCar race, you're just out. The stat man would say you're up on the wheel as a fan watching this IndyCar race. So to see this thing not come back would be a disappointment to a lot of us, man.
Massively.
Yep.
And does it blow your mind now that all of those races were pre-Aeroscreen era?
Wow. All right, Freak Nation, his name is Steve Phelps. He's the president of NASCAR. We had a chance to catch up with the guy, and man, was he fun to interview. And I say fun. He was interesting. It was not what I expected. I haven't met the man. It's the first time we met the guy. I came back a big fan of Steve Phelps. He's next. SpeedFreaks Pits and the Lucas Oil Studios.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined. Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
Lucas Oil, it works.
I run Lucas Oil.
It doesn't matter if you're on the water,
driving to work,
or competing in a sold-out stadium.
Lucas Oil products will help you get the most out of your vehicle.
Monster Jam has run Lucas Oil in and on our trucks for over 10 years.
We wouldn't run anything else.
Lucas Oil, the official oil of Monster Jam.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the Headrest Safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your Headrest Safe. It's so easy to install the Headrest Safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com, promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
This segment of Speed Freaks is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, you hear us talk about constant travel, time commitments, and a slew of other life schedules. Throw in some unexpected curveballs that life throws our way. It's easy to get lost and in need of some guidance to get back on track. And that's where BetterHelp.com comes in. Go to BetterHelp.com/freaks and get 10% off your first month. Tap into the world's largest network of licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a range of issues, including depression, anxiety, relationships, grief, and more. With BetterHelp.com's therapist, you get the same quality you'd expect from an in-office therapist, but you can communicate with them when and how you want, anytime from anywhere. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/freaks for 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/freaks.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Caff, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown battling out for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to www.traceway.com to get your tickets now.
You're listening to Speed Freaks Motorsports Radio Redefined.
Coming up at the end of the hour, Doug Kalitta, Top Fuel winner from Maple Grove. He will be here in the Freak Nation. This segment brought to you by good friends at Lucas Oil. Go to lucasoil.com to find the right products to keep your righteous rides on the road. Go to lucasoil.com for more information. Inside your engine, outside your engine, go to lucasoil.com. Statman, Crash Gladys, Kenny Sargent, Richard C. Suave taking the night off live on MAV TV and, of course, the Freak Radio Network. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, website, speedfreaks.tv. Going into break, I mentioned Steve Phelps, president of NASCAR. He's had that position for a few years now. And with the 23 years that we've been doing Speed Freaks, saying that we've had a tough time cracking the nut of NASCAR initially would be an understatement. We don't have time to get into that, but given what we've seen, Statt, Crash, so far of Steve Phelps, and we'll hear from him in minutes, it's been somewhat of a refreshing, Stat man, to have Steve Phelps in his position and bringing this new definition of NASCAR content to those that are fans of the series and fans of motorsports. Stat.
You know, the best, the best thing about having Phelps there is that he's not in the France downline. I mean, he came along, he wouldn't exist without France approving. But he wasn't the old man. He wasn't the son. He wasn't the grandson. He wasn't the pick of the Francis like Helton. But he came along at the right time with some fresh ideas and said that this, just because we did it that way doesn't mean we have to do it that way forever. And that's the best part about Steve Phelps.
Yeah, it really came to light around COVID time and how quickly NASCAR was able to figure out a way to rebound their part of the industry, even if it was just in the general automotive realm or in just shields to protect the medical industry or sanitizer. It doesn't matter. NASCAR reinvented themselves because of COVID, because of the tragedy. And that was all because of Steve Phelps' leadership. And then what they've done since then has been the most obvious, at least to us, as far as welcoming in all diversities of people and just the way that the sport has looked outside the box, which I don't believe they were very good at doing prior to him basically taking his position.
We caught up with Steve Phelps recently here in Phoenix, Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. Kyle Larson was out here for it and a few other drivers. And Steve Phelps sat in with Crash and yours truly for about 10, 15 minutes. Here's about 5 good minutes of Steve Phelps, president of NASCAR, here with the Freaks, Lucas Oil Studios. Steve Phelps, I've got a driver's perspective. I've got the fans' perspective. It's great to have your perspective of what happened at Daytona. Seeing that car tumble, I imagine you're just cringing as it's happening. Do you take that accident and immediately start addressing how to prevent that from happening again? How does the executive branch handle something like that?
Well, I will say this. I was in race control when it happened. It's terrifying. Ryan Preece is a member of our family, right? He's in... little known fact, but Ryan Preece was the driver coach and gave lessons to my twins when they were karting when they were 8 years old. So little connection there, but it doesn't matter whether it's Ryan Preece or it's Ryan Blaney or whomever, right? Those 2 hits that they took this past weekend were vicious. The hit that Blaney took that's scary. And if that had happened 20 years ago, would have had a different result. Not speculating on that, but and then Ryan Preece, we made changes to the Ryan Blaney hit to the front clip that seemed to do its job, right? And I'm sure he's sore, and actually I know he's sore because we exchanged texts yesterday. But with respect to the Ryan Preece hit, yeah, we took that car, took it back to R&D, and we need to make sure that we learn from what happened so we can do our level best to make sure that car doesn't get airborne. Bad things happen when race cars get airborne. They may be spectacular to look at, but we've got to keep the safety of the driver at the forefront. And we will continue to try to use different opportunities and tweaks to that car to make it safer and safer. We will always do that. And you see that whether you're talking about, it's not just the front clip and the rear clip, it's what's happening with their seats, and we've made significant changes working with the drivers and the team on their seats or their head surrounds or their helmets. You have to pull every single lever you can in order to keep those drivers safe, and that's what we're doing. And I'm proud of the work that John Padillac and our safety team has done back at the R&D Center. We invest significant dollars in order to make sure that our drivers are safe, and we'll continue to do that. Hopefully both drivers will get cleared to run this weekend because I know that's what they want.
Do you think the veil of secrecy has been lifted somewhat thanks to the access that we have to drivers with social media, to where you feel like you really need to act on something because of it's prevalent, what's going on within our series or the NFL or Major League Baseball?
Sure. Well, for us, we've got something called our Driver Advisory Council, and we meet with drivers on that. We have a all driver meeting every 4 weeks or so. Last fall, we had one every single week so we could address the concerns that the drivers had. And so we are fully transparent. I would suggest that the relationship between NASCAR and our drivers has never been better, ever. And early October last year, that wasn't the case, right? And I got called out publicly. I got called out privately. And that I didn't care about the driver's safety. I can assure you I care about the driver's safety, and so does NASCAR. And we are now in such a better place, and it feels good. So it's not just about safety now. Those meetings are about safety. They're about promoting the sport. They're about the future of the drivers and what their careers look like after it's finished. So all kinds of different things that we're working with our drivers, and it's working. It's exciting.
A difference between you guys and the future is like, okay, we're human, and you guys are able to say, all right, maybe I made a mistake and didn't communicate as well with you guys as I should have, but things were busy. But hey, how do we fix this? How do we fail forward and move forward together? So again, I mean, that's just a difference, and that's you guys. Credit to you guys for evolving humanly and evolution-wise with the sport.
Right. Well, I think there probably was a time in the sport where it was like, hey, just put your helmet on and drive. We can't do that, right? That's not beneficial. They're the show, right? And we want to make sure that the guys that are the show and the gals that are the show, they're in their race cars, but they can also help us promote the sport, right? And because no one honestly wants to hear from me, they want to hear from the drivers. They want to hear from the crew chiefs, right? We are. We're kind of like the government. It doesn't mean we're not important. We have our job to do, but they're the sport, right? They're the heroes. They're the gladiators, and you got two gladiators that are hopefully going to climb back in their car this weekend. I mean, gladiators. I mean, that's scary. Like, hold your breath. Oh my God, scary. But we do have to be transparent. We have to keep working with our drivers to be better. So we're excited about the future looks like with our drivers.
Steve Phelps, president of NASCAR, joining us here in the Freak Nation. Good 5 or 6 minutes. And he drops a few comments in there that, again, I've heard that interview a few times, and what? Hold on a second. Curious initially, and again, we'll get deep into this next segment. Curious your thoughts on just several of those answers from Phelps.
Well, the most curious thing was that he answered the questions, because in 23 years, we've talked to NASCAR people, and a lot of them didn't answer the questions, or they gave questions to answer for, and they answered question 4, and we were answering question 5. So he answered the questions, looked you straight in the eye, and you can't appreciate somebody like that.
Crasher, when we were interviewing Phelps, again, it's the first time we've stuck a mic in front of this guy's face. It's the first time that we've met him. For all intents and purposes, at least, is much more transparent for the little time we've spent with him than we've ever had access to somebody in his position.
Without question. And he's not afraid to admit that mistakes have been made, whether on his watch or not, but it's not the time at all to become over fascinated by mistakes of the past. It's time to learn from them and move forward. And he's a straight up guy that is doing that. We see it not just in his words, but in his actions as well.
And again, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but having Steve Phelps in that position, you've seen the changes to many older NASCAR fans out there. You don't like these freaking changes, but frankly, I think between the three of us, we like a lot of the changes. Still some good room to go. But let's do this. Let's spend a few minutes coming up next segment and talk about those things that Steve Phelps was talking about and some of the changes, and really some of those changes that we hope happen for the 2024 season and beyond, which we've yet to see or hear about.
Oh, shortening the schedule? Gotcha.
How about that? Well, look, that broadcast schedule, the broadcast negotiations, I'm sure have already started because that agreement's done after next year.
Yep.
Right? So, yes, we'll do that. More with Steve Phelps and your take on it, Freak Nation. With Steve Phelps in that position, hit us up on Twitter at SpeedFreaks. Your take on what Steve Phelps and his executive branch has done for NASCAR. It's coming up next. SpeedFreaks Pits and the Lucas Oil Studios.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Cass, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown battling out for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to www.raceway.com to get your tickets now.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the Headrest Safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your Headrest Safe. It's so easy to install the Headrest Safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com, promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
At Lucas Oil, we take pride in creating problem-solving products to make your car care easier. We protect your vehicle and make it run longer so you can focus on the things that matter most. Whether it's commuting to work, visiting a loved one, taking the kids where they need to go, going to the big game, or anywhere life takes you, Lucas Oil is committed to getting you there for all of life's important moments. Lucas Oil, it works.
This segment of Speed Freaks is sponsored by BetterHelp. Like many of you, I own my own business. Well, it's Speed Freaks, and being self-employed can bring some stressful times. And for me, they all hit me at night just before bed. My mind is racing, falling asleep is a chore. When I do zonk out, sleep is interrupted. The racing mind just won't stop. But one way to curtail all that head chatter going on is to talk it through. And that therapy gives you a place to do that. Finding some emotional peace, you know? If you're thinking about starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/freaks for 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/freaks for 10% off your first month. Fill out a quick questionnaire with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. To get 10% off your first month, go to BetterHelp, HELP.com/freaks.
The weekend racing is over, or is it? not on MAV TV. Monday is All-American Racing Night on the network which never leaves the track. Sit back and enjoy grassroots red, white, and blue racing from America's most iconic tracks. Whether it's the precise lines of pavement ovals or the door-banging action of the dirt, MAV TV's Monday night lineup will bring you all the action from this country's legendary four-wheel battlegrounds. Monday night is All-American Racing, only on MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
You're listening to Speed Freaks Motorsports Radio Redefined.
The IndyCar NASCAR weekend at the Brickyard has been one of my favorites the last couple of years. I understand it may be going away, but futuristically thinking, how can we do an event, NASCAR and NHRA, or another NASCAR IndyCar event? Is that still on the mind for the future?
So for us, I talked about schedule variation. I thought the Indy weekend was a ton of fun, right? It's so cool for me on Saturday to go as a fan, right? And see, a doubleheader race, but IndyCar, NASCAR, and then another NASCAR race the next day. That's just really fun. See the different cars, see the different drivers and the race teams and the crossover that exists there. I think it's awesome. And motorsports needs to stick together, right? So we talk to the IndyCar guys all the time. We've partnered with NHRA to have Chicagoland Speedway, be a part of their schedule. Are there other opportunities for us with those two series or potential other series that we could race on back-to-back weekends or on the same weekend?
That, of course, is Steve Phelps, the president of NASCAR. You heard the majority of the interview last segment. We're going to discuss that coming up in the next few minutes. But first, this segment
go ahead. Sponsor.
But first, this segment brought to you by good friends at General Tire. Now through the end of October, buy a set of SUV, light truck, passenger tires, and get up to $100 back with a Visa prepaid card. Yep. Go to generaltire.com now through the end of October. Get up to $100 back with 4 new tires from General Tire. Crasher?
He just said he had fun at the NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader weekend. He got a chance to go as a fan. He and the executive branch of NASCAR talked to the folks at IndyCar a lot. So I think right there, he and we just solved the Texas Motor Speedway issue that we talked about at the top of this hour in NASCAR and IndyCar not being able to secure a proper date yet for their return to TMS in 2024, thanks to the Olympics kind of screwing up the month of August and therefore the trickle-down effect from there. Do your doubleheader weekend at TMS. If it's not going to come back to Indy, do it at TMS. Why not? Why not?
Statt, man, maybe that's going to be the out for IndyCar is to, and I know it's so hard for a lot of these old stalwarts in open wheel Statman, is to give in to the stock car series known as NASCAR because they turned their nose up, down, sideways, whatever they could do back in the day. And then NASCAR took that little gap when CART and IndyCar split and took advantage of it, and now they get 3 times the ratings. Mm-hmm. So there's still some of those IndyCar guys that are in there, Statman, were those, in particular, that were the cause of IndyCar's and open wheels demise.
How dare we do anything with NASCAR?
The worst thing, the absolute worst thing that any race promoter could do is listen to social media en masse.
Right.
If they would spend a little bit of time to scientifically isolate some people like Nielsen does with the ratings or any survey does, find some people that represent certain demography and stick with them. So you know who they are, you know the way they think, you know what they buy, you know what they watch. The worst thing you could do is get involved in the people in social media whose hair catches fire 4 times a day and base your promotion on them. The best thing he said in that entire soundbite was, I had fun. Mm-hmm. And the people on social media think fun is a 4-letter word. They get all involved in everything else except enjoyment, and fun. I think this guy, if he ignores them, they'll be much better off.
Mike Helton has been on this show a couple of times, and I'm not going to throw the guy under the bus, but I'm going to say, after speaking with Mike Helton a couple of times over the last 23 years and one time with Steve Phelps, I walked away from that interview knowing much more, at least where the executives and NASCAR stood, frankly, than I ever have in the previous 22 years, and really how they feel. And to stand next to someone that's warm-blooded and, like Statman says, enjoys racing, enjoys IndyCar and NASCAR together. I don't know if, to get back what Stat said last segment about the Bill France era, Big Bill France era, granted, it still permeates the hallways of the series, but with someone like Steve Phelps and his right and left-hand man, Steve O'Donnell, right. What they've done in the short amount of time to steer this legendary ship of NASCAR, celebrating their 75th anniversary, into the direction of, it's 2023. I don't know why I'm looking to the left, or I should be looking to the right. It's a different day, a different era, and we've got to get away from that dock of the old and set sail for somewhere else, man, because it's a different animal now. Something that we'll discuss second hour about IndyCar having to address issues such as that. But just Steve Phelps and NASCAR now, we would have we would have pre-show meetings about dealing with NASCAR in the past, many years ago, and it was painful. Well, so-and-so come on the air? Nope, they're afraid to come on. Nope, so-and-so won't let that person on. But Crasher, now it's wow, refreshing in NASCAR. I didn't think I'd utter those words.
Right. And I think Statman nailed it in the last segment as well. And you can see it again by that clip you just ran. Steve Phelps would look us in the eye. You brought up Mike Helton. The one thing that I came away with the very first time we interviewed Mike Helton, so we're talking circa 03-ish, 2003-ish, is that he would look around. He wouldn't look us in the eye while having an interview with us. He would look around. Who else is in the room? If I'm going to answer this correctly or appropriately, who's going to hear me? That kind of thing. No, Steve Phelps is like, my focus is on you. Whatever you're asking me, I will figure out a way to answer it as close to reality as I can. So, yeah, there's a big difference between the two. Big.
Crash, you hammered that nail so strongly. As a sports producer, you could tell when somebody you're talking to, the interviewee, is not paying attention. And they will look at you, you ask a question, you stick the mic in their face, and they fall back into their standard position. Oh, yes, I think if we have, and I don't know, and what else you want to ask me? And then, oh, I think this is, and I don't know. And a couple of times, even with people I like Scott Dixon, you ask them a question, and they answer whatever they want to answer. It's not the answer to your question. And an answer to a question can be no, or I don't want to tell you, or whatever. But don't spend a minute and a half telling me something that's not what I asked. But Phelps, you get the feeling that Phelps is not going to do that to you, that he's going to look you in the face, listen to your question, and he's going to find a way to answer it. And if he can't answer it, I have a feeling he'll say, I can't say.
Yeah, exactly. And for you guys listening to us, watching us right now, seriously, look at the drivers, look at the executives when they're being interviewed by anybody in motorsports. Heck, do this on news shows. And if they're not giving their complete focus to the interviewer, then something else is going on in their head, or they're trying to avoid part of the questioning. So yeah, it matters so much when the focus is there.
Watch SportsCenter one night and just look at the guys that you stick and ball guys. Kenny, you've talked to stick and ball guys, and you could tell they're not paying attention. They don't give a hoot about what you have to say. You stuck the mic and the camera in their face, and they'll say whatever they want to. I've taught them to do that.
So you're talking both sides of this equation.
If you don't like the question, answer your question. I've taught people to do that. So, yeah, I mean, but Phelps, I think, is a straight guy, and he's not somebody who's, I think what's the thing they say, if somebody starts veering off to the left when they answer a question, they're lying. So just pay attention to what somebody says, and yeah, you'll know exactly whether or not they're paying attention and whether or not they respect you enough to look you in the eye and say yay or nay.
The accountability of, frankly, corporations now is light years above what we've had. Again, I keep using our tenure, 23 years, as the example, but accountability for NASCAR in particular is much different than it was, given the fact they've got a new contract negotiation. They got new contract negotiations going on for the TV contract that ends at 2024. Sponsorship isn't as easy to come by as it was 10, 15 years ago.
Not even close.
Being transparent and upfront, way to go for these guys. Coming up next, Freak Nation, his name is Doug Kalitta. 1,079 days since his last win. Well, since his last win prior to last Monday. He joins us next. Speed Freaks Pits and the Lucas Oil Studios.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance is a dirty fuel system. It can cause decreased fuel economy and actually do harm to your engine over time. By adding Lucas fuel treatment to your vehicle, it cleans and lubricates the entire fuel system. Pump, carburetors, fuel injectors, and valves as you drive. It also improves your vehicle's performance. It's a non-solvent product designed to protect both gasoline and diesel engines. Lucas Fuel Treatment. It works.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the Headrest Safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your Headrest Safe. It's so easy to install the Headrest Safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com, promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Cass, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown battling out for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to www.traceway.com to get your tickets now.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
This segment of Speed Freaks is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, you hear us talk about constant travel, time commitments, and a slew of other life schedules. Throw in some unexpected curveballs that life throws our way. It's easy to get lost and in need of some guidance to get back on track. And that's where BetterHelp.com comes in. Go to BetterHelp.com/freaks and get 10% off your first month. Tap into the world's largest network of licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a range of issues, including depression, anxiety, relationships, grief, and more. With BetterHelp.com's therapist, you get the same quality you'd expect from an in-office therapist, but you can communicate with them when and how you want, anytime from anywhere. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/freaks for 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/freaks.
The weekend racing is over, or is it? not on MAV TV. Monday is All-American Racing Night on the network which never leaves the track. Sit back and enjoy grassroots red, white, and blue racing from America's most iconic tracks. Whether it's the precise lines of pavement ovals or the door-banging action of the dirt, MAV TV's Monday night lineup will bring you all the action from this country's legendary four-wheel battlegrounds. Monday night is All-American Racing, only on MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and e-auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
You're listening to Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio Redefined.
Freak Nation, I can't tell you the last time we had Doug Kalitta here in the Freak Nation. I don't need to be dropping more numbers on this guy because he heard it at the top end after his big win last weekend. It actually happened on Monday due to the rain delay. Doug Kalitta, Top Fuel winner, joining us here in the Freak Nation. And Doug, when I hear 1,079 days was your last win, that blew me away. Needless to say, I saw your jaw damn near drop when you heard that number.
Yeah, that was quite a reminder of how long it's been, but I had to think about that one when she said it. But no, I'm really proud of my guys. Yeah, it was definitely they don't come easy these days, obviously, and but no, we really had a good running car there at Maple Grove. We ran 360s all day, so that was a big part of what we needed to beat the folks. It's the racing now in the NHRA, the Top Fuel and Funny Car, really all of the classes is super competitive. Everybody's cutting good lights, and it's just really seems as competitive as it's ever been. So, but that was my third final of the year. So we have been knocking on the door trying to get the win, but I was really relieved for sure to finally get that 50th.
Doug Kalitta joining us here in the Freak Nation, Maple Grove winner, Top Fuel class, joining us here in the Lucas Oil Studios. And we're familiar with your business. Of course, we're familiar with your uncle, Kalitta Air, and so many intricacies of running a business and how you're involved in these businesses. Curious, if you were full-time Top Fuel, it was nothing but you driving that car and dealing with your crew, do you think there would be more race wins for Doug Kalitta, or is this just the way it is?
I think it's just the way it is. It's, it's, I've got Alan Johnson and Brian Houston, and, they're really as far as tuning cars, they're as good as they get. And I'm very fortunate. Trust me. That's my first win with Alan Johnson as my crew chief, and been racing against him my whole life. And it was a huge win for me to get that monkey off my back with him as my crew chief and getting the win and all that stuff. So big day.
It was an odd weekend for you guys in Maple Grove because you had, I believe it was tire issues the last round of qualifying. So your car with the aero screen with the roof, I forget what you guys call it, that went goodbye. So you went back to a backup car, and you made it look like with a backup car like this win was easy. I know it wasn't, but explain all of that and how that played on your psyche on race day as well.
Yeah, that was like you say, we had, for some reason, we exploded the right rear tire, and it was fortunately didn't hit anything, got the thing stopped, but our car was junk. So we drug out the backup car, and that was a car that I've been running the end of last year, so we're really familiar with that car, and really the two cars are built on the same jig. So, Alan and Brian and the guys, they put our normal setup in that thing, and it was apparently happy to get out of the trailer is all I can think of, because that thing it really performed well. And you never never sure what you're going to end up with a different car, but in this case it really worked out well.
Who's better in a thrash type scenario? Is it you just basically needing to react with whatever you've got and just boom, go forward? Or is it Alan Johnson in being like, okay, this is what we've got. We got to thrash, make this work. We got a race day coming up. Who do you think thrives more on that sort of scenario?
Yeah, I think really all of our guys. We also have Chad Head, who is the team manager, right? So Chad, it was just a big team effort, really. But yeah, our only choice was to drag out the backup car. We started looking at trying to, see if we could run that car because it really didn't look that bad, but there was just a couple things wrong with it that made it obvious we needed to switch. But once we got it back on the jig, we realized that thing is just all twisted up. And but a good thrash never hurts, with just kind of making it all real sometimes.
So Doug Kalitta won at Maple Grove last week in his 50th win. There's only 16 pro drivers now who have got 50 wins in the pro categories. You mentioned Alan Johnson, and it just popped into my head. He's a competitor. You used to race against each other. Is there, in any competition, there's a lot of head games going on. Have you and Alan sat down away from the track and talked about some of the head games that went on between the two of you?
No, not too much. He's certainly known for winning championships, and that's definitely our goal here with 5 races remaining. So this is kind of what we've been trying to position ourselves for all year. So, I'm super optimistic, really everybody on my team, Alan, and that we've got a good shot at, keeping our car very consistent. Hopefully putting the big numbers up and going rounds and being in contention at the end of this year. So I'm not sure exactly how many championships he's won, but Alan seems to have a knack. And I tell you, I'm super excited about the opportunity to drive the car and and see what we can do this year, because I've been second a number of times, and that's definitely not where we want to be this year for sure.
When you went against Torrance at Maple Grove, that final round, I think it said that you went faster than you've ever gone before. What was it? 336, almost 337. That's stunning in 1,000 feet.
Yeah, for me, that means that the motor is happy. Actually, that our car really hasn't been eating a lot of parts. It's just normal wear and tear when you're running something that hard. But yeah, and Connie, he's our fearless leader, and he's happy when he's not buying us all new parts for stuff that we blow up.
I think you're a pilot for Kalitta Air. When you're at 35,000 feet at 600 miles an hour, or whatever it is, does your mind ever go back to the lights and the field and the racing and all of that going on? Do you have to fight to stay to concentrate on what you're doing?
No. I'm the pilot to the races as well, so we usually finish up on the weekends. End up flying home. So I had to wait until we got back to Detroit to celebrate a little bit. But
come on, Doug, you can't tell me there's been one time after a successful race you looked over at your co-pilot and says, "Bro, I need to imbibe. I got to get lit. I'm going in the back. You take over." Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't say that I have. So I'm a pretty honest pilot, I guess you could call me.
Good.
Well, I'm not calling you dishonest, man. I'm just saying you turn the plane over to somebody else because you deserve to get hammered in the back of the jet.
Who is that somebody else?
I mean,
that's what I'm working towards in my life, is to be able to sit in the back. That's my goal in life. I haven't quite figured that one out yet.
That's a dude that drives a dragster 336, 37, 38 miles per hour. That's your goal, is to sit in the back of the plane?
Says all the other drivers who don't have private planes, they just want to sit in first class. You're like, no, just put me in the back.
Hey, Doug, can you tell the difference between 300 and 336?
No, you really can't. Even, that first round we ran 365, and I wasn't sure what to expect with this, pulling this backup car out. So I thought the thing maybe ran a 370 or whatnot, but
We're talking about elapsed time here, just Freak Nation. We're not talking about speed. Yeah, elapsed time.
But no, you really can't tell the difference. You're just trying to keep it in the groove and get that shootout, just as you're getting across the finish line. So, and there's a wind light down there too that you've got an eye on as well. So that is always what we're looking for.
Is there a point somewhere, whether it's mile per hour or elapsed time, where you can tell, all right, that kicked in? Is there some sort of a threshold where you can tell?
Yeah, you can. Well, the car's accelerating the whole way. So sometimes when it has the front end up, you can tell this thing's really, really running. But typically the front end doesn't really come up too high. So if it's up and carrying the front end, then it's running pretty hard from there.
Is that when Kenny? Excuse me,
really
Doug. Kenny Bernstein told us once that when it's like driving a Cadillac, when the thing gets bowed and you could see it and everything is hooked up and it's going well, you could feel that in the car and that you're on a run, you're on a good run.
Yeah, that's probably a good way of putting it as well.
Wow. Doug, as always, buddy, thank you for doing this, man.
Hey, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Great seeing you guys again.
And coming up next hour, Freak Nation, IndyCar NXT champion Christian Rasmussen will join us in the Freak Nation. But first, we're going to discuss the new Kyle Busch versus the old Kyle Busch. Big second hour coming up. Speed Freaks Pits and the Lucas Oil Studios.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
Hey, Dad, what are you going to buy at the store today?
I'm out of Lucas Oil fuel treatment, so let's jump in here and grab us some.
Well, do they have the Lucas Oil parts cleaner and degreaser?
I bet they do.
Well, how about the Lucas Oil power steering fluid?
They'll have that too.
Even the octane booster?
I won't be surprised if they do.
My favorite red and tacky grease?
Yes, they will, babe.
Dad, when we're done, can we grab some candy?
Deal, but you gotta share.
Awesome! Lucas works.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Katz, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown battling out for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to www.traceway.com to get your tickets now.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the Headrest Safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your Headrest Safe. It's so easy to install the Headrest Safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com, promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
This segment of Speed Freaks is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, you hear us talk about constant travel, time commitments, and a slew of other life schedules. Throw in some unexpected curveballs that life throws our way. It's easy to get lost and in need of some guidance to get back on track. And that's where BetterHelp.com comes in. Go to BetterHelp.com/freaks and get 10% off your first month. Tap into the world's largest network of licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a range of issues, including depression, anxiety, relationships, grief, and more. With BetterHelp.com's therapist, you get the same quality you'd expect from an in-office therapist, but you can communicate with them when and how you want, anytime from anywhere. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/freaks for 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/freaks.
The weekend racing is over, or is it? not on MAV TV. Monday is All-American Racing Night on the network which never leaves the track. Sit back and enjoy grassroots red, white, and blue racing from America's most iconic tracks. Whether it's the precise lines of pavement ovals or the door-banging action of the dirt, MAV TV's Monday night lineup will bring you all the action from this country's legendary four-wheel battlegrounds. Monday night is All-American Racing, only on MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. Call 800-631-9123. 800-631-9123. That's 800-631-9123.
You're listening to Speed Freaks Motorsports Radio Redefined.
Please hang up and try again.
Freak Radio Network, broadcasting from the Lucas Oil Studios.
Driven by General Tire.
It's Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio Redefined with Kenny Sargent.
We love to party.
Crash Gladys.
What are we doing for the bachelorette party?
And Statman.
I am serious.
Here's the Freaks.
It's a big second hour, freaks. Coming up, Statman is going to do his darndest to say something. Statman may do his darndest. We'll see if Statman says anything nice about Kyle Busch, because we're going to talk about it, the old versus the new. Kyle Busch coming up in moments. This hour, his name is Christian Rasmussen, IndyCar Next Series champion, who now has a whole lot of blow after winning that championship to take to IndyCar. We'll talk to him about that. Also this hour, TA2 winner from Watkins Glen, Brent Cruz, will be here in the Freak Nation. Also, IndyCar's popularity as far as numbers go on TV have increased, but some are saying inside the walls of the IndyCar series, not enough. We'll talk about that coming up here in the Freak Nation. Be sure you're part of this big old thing. The website, speedfreaks.tv. We're therefore on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And, of course, you can always chime on with direct messages, DMs as the kids call them, on Instagram and, of course, again, on Twitter at SpeedFreaks. Statman, Crash Gladys, Kenny Sargent, Suave. He's got the night off. Don't know what the hell he's doing. Maybe he's trying to find something positive to say about Kyle Busch after his move from Joe Gibbs. After his move from Hendricks to Joe Gibbs, now to Richard Childress Racing, it's almost been a full season with Kyle Busch in the RCR car. Statman, anytime you want to step in here and say something positive about Kyle Busch, go right ahead. And I don't have any crickets, Statman. Go ahead.
He's got 2 championships.
Hold on. There we go. Thank you. There we go.
Well, who wins the bet? The over and under before Statt says something good.
Right.
Oh, right. Should we do an over under minute wise or how many positive comments? That was one. That was one. So we now have to go over one.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Well, my point is this. There's a great article on racer.com. I believe Kelly Crandall did it with racer.com, and it brought me to thinking. Again, Kyle Busch got his big time start with Rick Hendrick Racing, Hendrick Motorsports, and then went to Joe Gibbs, who won his championships. In the last couple of years with Joe Gibbs, I wasn't so stellar. And we talked about this last Sunday about how Denny Hamlin might be taking some of the throne of the villain that Kyle Busch, and I'll leave Joey Logano out of this, that Kyle Busch has really wrapped his arms around and embraced it, to the dismay of a lot of people out there and to the liking of many people, as we found out with Kyle Busch teaming up with Richard Childress this year. Kyle Busch with RCR in my eyes, has, I don't know what metaphor do I want to use? Turn the page. What's the saying? Turn the leaf. What the hell? What's the leaf?
Turned over a new
turn
leaf.
over a new leaf.
What's the leaf? That's your hashtag. What's the leaf?
I was thinking about this. It's just hard for me to say. This is really hard for me to say.
Ooh.
I don't dislike the Washington Commanders as much as I did 10, 15 years ago. I don't.
As a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan, you're saying that.
Yeah.
You could somehow embrace some sort of the commanderdom?
No. Never said anything about embracing.
Okay.
But again, Dan Snyder, thank goodness he's gone as the ownership of that team. But just really the whole aura that the Washington Commanders provided me and my family for decades, it's just, it's like, who cares?
Yeah, it's not embracing, Crash. I think what he means is that he's turned the flamethrower off.
Got it.
He'd rather not burn the stadium down. He said, all right, the stadium can stay, but after that,
Is it because they suck?
Well, that has a lot to do with it, but at the same,
if they were good and challenging the Cowboys, it would be a different story.
Because
that's not good. That's a deep rabbit hole.
We only got about 5 minutes left in this segment. So Statman, has the flamethrower from you and Kyle Busch been turned down a notch or two, given what's happened this year at the RCR?
Well, I haven't injected the oxygen into it to throw the flame. Right now, the flame is just leaking out of the end of the nozzle on the flamethrower.
Okay.
There's a lot about Kyle Busch that is personal. Maybe between him and I, certainly from me. People that don't respect me, I don't respect. And that's as simple as way as I could say it.
That's fair. And even he admits he's had his fair shake of not treating the media 100% the way he potentially should have.
Yeah, when you roll your eyes when the media walks up, it's like, yeah, okay, I don't want to talk to you either. Right. And so I just avoid him. I don't talk to him. And then when he used to crash the car, when somebody would chase him down at the end of a race, that sort of, I didn't appreciate that as a skill set. So, and then when he went through all the stuff about I'm Kyle Busch and you're not, that turned me off. And when I heard him, I think, Kenny, you said the same thing once. When I heard him once talking to somebody in the media about how he's turned over a new leaf, and I had to stop when I was walking through the room. I had to stop and say, who is that? Sounds like Kyle Busch. And it turns out he realized once the candy company said, who needs you? And he said, ooh, I got to do something here. And he's turning over a new leaf.
Crasher, in this article with Kelly Crandall, he talks about that, how he's in a position now that he's not when he was leaving Joe, when he couldn't get the funding with Joe Gibbs and they couldn't work out the numbers, he was in a unfamiliar position.
Yeah, Kenny, that a guy with 2 championships and record number of race wins almost, and he couldn't find anyone to support him. He played the villain role for too long, and people were saying, who needs you? And it took him, in this article, it says that it took him more than one meeting, dinner, meeting, conversation with several other sponsors before they would say, well, let's give it a try. 2 championships.
Yes, to a point, but we'd be lying if we didn't say we weren't a little bit personally involved with one of the sponsors that stepped up in the early term with RCR and, well, quite frankly, helped him with branding on the side of his car with his first win with the team. So we are a little familiar with how some of these things went down. And if we're going to just, speaking of transparency, as we have in this entire show so far, the full transparency as to why the candy company couldn't come back is because they were in a massive lawsuit and still are. So that wasn't necessarily a Kyle Busch attitude thing. that was the company needing to reposition their funding and not into motorsports.
Yeah,
but that did leave the Joe Gibbs team. Well, hold on a second. That did leave the Joe Gibbs team in a bad situation. And you're right. The Gibbs team couldn't fund him as much, but RCR is not having those funding issues as much as the Gibbs team was having them.
I can't let that sit on the table. If he was winning races, he's got 2 championships. If he was competing for more and he was selling candy, they would spend some money on him. But it turns out that whatever they do to check whether or not he's valuable to the brand, he wasn't selling candy, evidently. And they said, you got to go. We're in the business of selling candy, not racing.
Well, true. They're also in the business of making food that is digestible. And I think their lawyers told them, you're done. You're totally done. You're out of that marketing deal.
So my point is this. Kyle Busch has not been on the radar like he has in the past for many negative transgressions. I haven't seen really any of that this year. And we in particular have had our mics in front of Kyle Busch more this year than we have any other year, frankly, combined. And I don't know if that's good for NASCAR or bad for NASCAR. Because frankly, well, it might be good for NASCAR because Denny Hamlin's doing his damnedest to try and take the mantle away when it comes to being the villain.
And Noah Gragson has done his fair share as well. As long as there's a villain somewhere, it doesn't have to be Kyle Busch.
But but Crasher, they've got to win. The villain has to win in order for them to, frankly, fill that role of being a villain.
You're right. And Noah was not that. So you're right.
Right?
You're right. So as long as the villain is Denny Hamlin or Joey Logano, okay.
And Statt, man, Crash, think about this. Again, we've got about a minute. It's Richard Childress. He's the guy. It's Hold My Watch.
That was with Kyle Busch.
With Kyle Busch.
That's why the whole thing has come full circle in the strangest of ways, but it's working. And it's working nicely.
We got one thing out of Statt, man.
I asked my daughter once when she started dating, I said, you got to introduce the guys except the flakes. And when she wasn't introducing anybody, I said, what happened? She said, you didn't want to meet the flakes.
Fathers all around listening to us right now. That's what you tell your daughters. I want to meet all the good boys. I don't want to meet the flakes.
There you go, Freak Nation. The old or the new Kyle Busch? Which one do you prefer? Hit us up on Twitter at SpeedFreaks. Coming up next, the guy's got damn near $1 million to spend where he wants to in IndyCar. We'll explain next. SpeedFreaks Bits and the Lucas Oil Studios.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined. Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
Lucas Oil, it works.
I run Lucas Oil.
It doesn't matter if you're on the water,
driving to work,
or competing in a sold-out stadium.
Lucas Oil products will help you get the most out of your vehicle.
Monster Jam has run Lucas Oil in and on our trucks for over 10 years.
We wouldn't run anything else.
Lucas Oil, the official oil of Monster Jam.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the Headrest Safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your Headrest Safe. It's so easy to install the Headrest Safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com, promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
This segment of Speed Freaks is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, you hear us talk about constant travel. time commitments, and a slew of other life schedules. Throw in some unexpected curveballs that life throws our way. It's easy to get lost and in need of some guidance to get back on track. And that's where BetterHelp.com comes in. Go to BetterHelp.com/freaks and get 10% off your first month. Tap into the world's largest network of licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a range of issues, including depression, anxiety, relationships, grief, and more. With BetterHelp.com's therapist, you get the same quality you'd expect from an in-office therapist, but you can communicate with them when and how you want, anytime from anywhere. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/freaks for 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/freaks.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Cass, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown battling out for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to WWTRaceway.com to get your tickets now.
You're listening to Speed Freaks Motorsports Radio Redefined.
From the Lucas Oil Studios, Freak Nation, 23 years of doing this thing. This guy is 23 years, and Christian Rasmussen, your next champion for the IndyCar Feeder Series, joining us here at the Freak Nation. 23 years ago, we started this thing, Christian, and I'd be lying to you if I thought we'd have some dude from Copenhagen that's damn near won everything, that's 23 years old and has earned his scholarship to go IndyCar racing. It's pretty fantastic, my friend. Are you going to take that money and go directly to Dale Coyne since you won that championship with Dale Coyne?
We'll see. I'm kind of open for the opportunities that I get. It's kind of starting to close down fairly quickly. So I have a test coming up with Ed Carpenter this Monday. So we'll see where that leads. So that's an opportunity. Dale Coyne is an opportunity. I like to keep my options open for now.
Listen to you, man. You're already a freaking politician. Imagine you're sitting up in the corner with your feet up on a chair and a big fat cigar. All these owners are rolling through, begging you to come join them with all this damn money. Is that how it's working?
Not quite how it's working. Unfortunately, I would love to be in that position. That's not really where I am. But even though that seats can seem open, there's a lot of stuff going on in the IndyCar world, and stuff can close down very, very quick. So, we'll just see. It's kind of a waiting game right now, seeing what opportunities is staying open and what I can do with my prize award that I get from the Indy Next Series. We'll see.
Christian, I don't want to harbor on this too much, but is it kind of a weird position to be in? I mean, you are the Indy Next champion. You won it with Dale Coyne Racing. Would it be odd if you did not give that money to them because they do have a potential opening? Or is it that's just the nature of the beast and you can go wherever you want?
I think that's a little bit of the nature of racing. I got to do what I think is best for my career. Obviously, I have had a great relationship with HMD Dale Coyne this year. And they have been great for me in Indy Next. If that's going to be the same position in IndyCar, I don't know yet. Maybe I won't say no. But yeah, I mean, I'm looking to explore all the options that I have and see what's the best fit for me.
We're talking with Christian Rasmussen, of course, the Indy Next 2023 champion, joining us here in the Freak Nation on a Sunday night. And it's pretty impressive that only you and Kyle Kirkwood can say that you have won at every level of the IndyCar Feeder Series in the history of this series. That's just blowing my mind right now. But we would be remiss if we didn't bring up that part of that was with Jay Howard Racing, Jay Howard Driver Development. We are here in the Lucas Oil Studios. Jay Howard is a huge partner with Lucas Oil. Can you talk about how that was just so crucial for you, for your upbringing, and how that led to your success into the next level and how it will lead into IndyCar?
No, it has been absolutely forming career from day one I stepped into the United States. So after 2017, I did Danish F4. I was kind of looking at my options around the world and kind of see where am I gonna get from where I am now to get a professional career in racing, using the least amount of money possible. So my family is a very regular working class family from Denmark, and we can't come up with the same kinds of budgets that than a lot of these other drivers can come up with. So we looked to the United States, where this scholarship system was in place, and looked at as a great opportunity for me to progress my my racing career without us having to find a full budget each year. So moved to the United States in 2018 at the age of I was 17, turning 18 that year. Got into US F4, did the first year in that, and kind of realized that if you want to go anywhere in the United States, you got to be in the road to Indy. So the year after that, I moved up with Jay to USF 2000, won the championship the following year in 2020. And that was really what got me started on this whole thing. Like, I would not have been able to move up to USF Pro 2000 the year after without that scholarship that I won. And it was the same story the year after that. If I didn't win the USF Pro 2000 championship in 2021, I would not have been able to move up into Indy next. So that's really what has been furthering my career so far, and that's really the only reason why I have gotten this far in racing. Is because of all the scholarship that's been available. So it was definitely the right move for me at the end of 2017. And yeah, I've just been loving it ever since.
Why do you think it has taken so long in the history of open wheel racing in America for this to make sense? Was it Jay Howard himself just putting his foot down saying, we've got to do this for our younger drivers?
So the whole scholarship system is set in place by, at the time, Dan Anderson and Anderson Promotion and IndyCar for Indy Next. So they're really the one that have this system in place. Obviously, Jay has kind of come through the same that I did, and is obviously a huge believer in the scholarship system. So for me, it was very natural to stay with Jay, move up with Jay, even though that our USF Pro 2000 campaign was a rookie career for me, but also a rookie season for Jay stepping up into a new series. So yeah, we knew we had a good idea that we could do it, and it worked out.
Christian Rasmussen, Indy Next champion, was born, as I remember, 4 days after we did our first show.
Yep.
So you've grown up in the Freak Nation, for crying out loud. I can imagine, Christian, that somewhere along the line you had to bring some money to the table and said, hey, give me that car. Is that the way it happened? Or you mentioned scholarships. Has it always been scholarships that bumped you along?
Yeah, so for the first part of my career, obviously we had to fund it ourselves, and making the move to the United States in the first year, or this first and second year, we had to find full budgets myself. So through sponsors, through good deals with Jay Howard and an investor from back home in Denmark, we were able to, give us that first push that got us into winning the scholarships. But after that, the scholarships has really been the main source of my budget for the following year. So this year was really the first year in a while where we went into this season without a full budget, and we went into this year knowing that we were going to be competitive, or having a good idea that we were going to be competitive. I had race wins in my season with Andretti Autosport last year, and obviously stepped up with HMD Motorsports as the championship winning team. So we knew going into the season that we were going to have a good shot at it, but I also didn't know if I would have or been able to find the budget during the year to finalize the year. So actually 3 times over the course of the year, I have been less than 24 hours of losing my seat just because that we couldn't find the budget. So we've kind of had to push through that and get it done. And I've been saved on the finish line a few times now by investors, both back home in Denmark, but also over here in the United States. And then working with HMD Motorsports and kind of putting myself in the position to win the championship, I think definitely helped as well, and that's kind of how we've been able to finish the year.
I think we talked to a the guy who won the championship last year, Lundqvist, and he was having some trouble. He had to bang on a lot of doors to finally get a ride with Ganassi, I believe. You do a lot of weight training. Have you done some weight training on your knuckles to not bang on enough doors to get some attention?
No, that's definitely the thing that we're moving into now is definitely trying to knock down those doors and see what opportunities is available. I think I'm in a little bit better position than Linus is, just because that our prize award from this year is bigger than what Linus got. So obviously that gives me a little more leverage. I think also Linus coming in and doing as well with Maya Shank this year as he did really helped all the Indy NXT guys in their position stepping up, just showing everyone that the Indy NXT champion and the Indy NXT drivers are forces to be reckoned with, and that they can step up and do as well as they can even without having a lot of time in the car.
Well, this is awesome. Hey, Christian, welcome to your first time in the Freak Nation. Maybe your last,
Who knows? I hope not. But,
right.
That's up to you guys.
Typically, when you win an IndyCar race, you're here in the Freak Nation. All right, buddy?
Well, I hope I will be back then.
Attaboy. Yeah. Christian, thank you for doing this, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys.
And speaking of IndyCar, the popularity of the series has grown slightly when it comes to ratings. And frankly, for some people inside the walls of IndyCar, they're saying not quick enough. We'll explain. That's coming up next. SpeedFreaks Pits and the Lucas Oil Studios.
SpeedFreaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Cash, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown barreling on for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to www.raceway.com to get your tickets now.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the Headrest Safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com. Use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your Headrest Safe. It's so easy to install the Headrest Safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com. Use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com. Promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
At Lucas Oil, we take pride in creating problem-solving products to make your car care easier. We protect your vehicle and make it run longer so you can focus on the things that matter most. Whether it's commuting to work, visiting a loved one, taking the kids where they need to go, going to the big game, or anywhere life takes you, Lucas Oil is committed to getting you there for all of life's important moments. Lucas Oil, it works.
The weekend racing is over, or is it? Not on MAV TV. Monday is All-American Racing Night on the network which never leaves the track. Sit back and enjoy grassroots red, white, and blue racing from America's most iconic tracks. Whether it's the precise lines of pavement ovals or the door-banging action of the dirt, MAV TV's Monday night lineup will bring you all the action from this country's legendary four-wheel battlegrounds. Monday night is All-American Racing, only on MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
You're listening to Speed Freaks Motorsports Radio Redefined.
Lucas Oil Studios, Freak Nation, 23 years of doing this from the Lucas Oil Studios. Great website to check out, lucasoil.com. Inside your engine, inside your car, outside your engine, they have plenty of products to keep all elements of your hot rod fat and happy. Go to lucasoil.com. That's lucasoil.com. Christian Rasmussen, last hour, he's got himself some championship money that he's taking to IndyCar next year, allegedly, and that will be applied to the IndyCar team that he decides to go with for 2024. And that money, that championship money, from what we understand, Crasher, from the snappy research that we've done and people we've talked to, what's the money that he's going to be taking with him to the IndyCar series?
It's supposed to be $850,000, but it's not like he gets a check for $850 and gets to just carry it to a team and say, here, give me an engine, pour me a seat, let's go. The money is supposed to be immediately directed to a test at Texas Motor Speedway's oval. Funny, we were just talking about that track yesterday, which they may or may not run in 2024, come to think of it, and a test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and supposed to go to at least partially funding a 2024 Indy 500 ride. So that's what the $850 is supposed to go to. We shall see. He told us he's got a test with Ed Carpenter Racing, potentially might keep the money with Dale Coyne Racing. It's all still up in the air.
So I'm going to dovetail that conversation into a story that came out, whether it's racer.com or, well, no, it was a Sports Business Journal.
Yes, it was right? Adam Stern, right?
Right. And the popularity of IndyCar has increased over the years. Not necessarily exponentially, there you go, but it's increased when it comes to ratings on NBC and streaming. But for some inside the walls of IndyCar, and I'm not saying strictly inside the executive walls or inside the walls of those that collect a check from IndyCar, Indianapolis Motor Speedway, or Penske Corporation, but those, whether it's team owners, drivers, people involved in IndyCar are saying, great, but it's not quick enough because of where technology is going, frankly, that IndyCar is just sitting there in the mud when it comes to deliverables of their series of popularity, watching other forms of sport and entertainment, leave them at the dock. NASCAR, for example, yes.
Formula One.
Formula One, a perfect example. Statt, man, I sent out something the other day, or actually it was yesterday, or whenever it was, about the television revenue that IndyCar is getting is right around $20 million. Formula One, a series that runs here this year 3 times, but more or less based off the shores of the United States.
And has always, television-wise, always been on the back burner, never worth much of anything to a network, let alone the American viewers.
Whose ratings rival IndyCar.
Now they do.
They're getting, $75 million. NASCAR is just $800 million plus.
The behemoth.
There's a problem with IndyCar, and many people were thinking that Roger Penske would be able to solve all of these problems. Statman?
I think the problem is what I've said over and over again, and what we talked about maybe it was last week, where NASCAR is going to the people, to the Los Angeles Coliseum, inviting people from Mexico, making it possible for racers from Mexico to come race in the Coliseum, having concerts with Pitbull and Ice Cube and who knows who else. And that's the audience that they're getting. They're taking their show to the people and say, here, see how beautiful we are and what we're doing. Don't you like this? Come, here's where you can come look at it some more. IndyCar is going behind the locked gate in front of $10 million condos and saying, yeah, we're going to have our points race behind the locked gate. NASCAR is taking theirs into the openness of the Los Angeles Coliseum. One more thing I'll add to this. When conversations I had in Formula D was starting to get rolling, and they didn't want to do a podcast, video or audio or otherwise, because they were afraid they would take away from the paying customers. What they found out when they tested the water and they started streaming their qualifying, they found out that people didn't know what drifting was. And the response that they were getting was, this is drifting? I'll come watch it when it comes close to me.
Ooh.
NASCAR is saying the same thing. This is NASCAR. This is fun. I'll come see it when it gets close to me. IndyCar, behind the locked gate, behind armed guards. There's a difference there.
I absolutely get what you're saying. That's in regards to the All-Star race, the points race that each series has. IndyCar is doing that for people, whether it's Iowa, where you had Ed Sheeran and Carrie Underwood. You had massive concerts. Granted, the ticket prices went up a little bit, but you had it there available for people when it's really hard to get those tickets anywhere else in the country right now. They did that. Long Beach is a decent ticket to get. You're right there in the middle of the streets of Long Beach with the drivers. So there's a different kind of disconnect. IndyCar is giving the opportunities, maybe not as easily, but it's not translating. Why is that? Because again, the Indy 500 is a pretty easy ticket to get. It makes it you right there in the middle of all the entertainment, the snake pit, the what have you. Why is that not translating to the very next weekend when they go race? The ratings just aren't the same. So there's something in my opinion, in the marketing, in the messaging from IndyCar to the fan base that's just not getting out there to the normal Joe Blows who would be entertained if they just knew about it.
And I'm not going to speak for Statt, man. I'm going to speak for myself. IndyCar is one of the greatest forms of racing on the planet. I've seen IndyCar damn near every venue where the surface differs, whether it's road, street, ovals, big ovals, small ovals. To me, of all the series that we watch, IndyCar's top 2 or 3. And that's putting up against Supercross and motocross and drag racing. Just the excitement that IndyCar has. And frankly, as you see inside the walls of SpeedFreaks, the IndyCar drivers that come on this show, how much fun they have. But going back to Statman's reference to Formula D and getting fans out to Formula D races, it's translating to new eyeballs. It's not translating. Okay, it's translating a little bit when it comes to the TV ratings, but exponentially, there it is, the third time I've tried to use that word correctly. It's not translating exponentially to where the NASCAR ratings are 3 times and more, 3 times what the IndyCar ratings are, 3 times what Formula One is. And there's a reason why they can get that much cake when it comes to broadcasting their races.
When arguably the races are very long, sometimes a little tiresome, yet they can still hold the eyeballs.
Roger Penske has upgraded some issues that the IndyCar and Indianapolis Motor Speedway has had, including,
don't say it,
I have to, a lot of the growlers on the grounds of Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Woo! There's still some troughs, but these are cleaner troughs where dudes line up to do their business. Why we can't have single damn toilets in all of IndyCar or Indianapolis Motor Speedway's crappers, I don't know. But
that's not bringing new eyeballs to the series. It's spending money, but it's not bringing new eyeballs to the series.
Now, hold on. You just dug a rabbit hole. There are certain gas stations and certain ice cream stores that I will not go to because their growlers, their bathrooms are rank.
Valid. So are you saying some people may still be holding out because there are still trough growlers at Indianapolis Motor Speedway that they will not go to that track? They will not go to the Indy 500 because Roger hasn't updated them all? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm using it as a metaphor, Crasher.
Okay.
Lipstick on a
pig.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. He's not, as far as buying a ticket, people don't think the experience in person is worth whatever they're charging. They're not even buying into watching it at home for free.
Right.
And that's the problem. One of the issues that when I talk to people about IndyCar is that they think it looks too much like Formula One.
Yes, that's always been a problem.
Always a confusion. And I think that some of it is like the NHRA, where IndyCar is selling the technology instead of the personality of the drivers. And the drivers are phenomenal personalities. They're good people. They had the reputation of getting people from Brazil a long time ago, but that's changing now. A lot of these guys they're just good people that you want to cheer for.
Freak Nation, coming up next, a perfect example of old white guys, long in the tooth, should just get the hell out of the way and let the younger generation take over. And I hope it doesn't happen in motorsports.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
One of the main reasons for poor vehicle performance is a dirty fuel system. It can cause decreased fuel economy and actually do harm to your engine over time. By adding Lucas Fuel treatment to your vehicle, it cleans and lubricates the entire fuel system, pump, carburetors, fuel injectors, and valves as you drive. It also improves your vehicle's performance. It's a non-solvent product designed to protect both gasoline and diesel engines. Lucas Fuel treatment. It works.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the headrest safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your headrest safe. It's so easy to install the headrest safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com, promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Cass, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown battling out for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to www.traceway.com to get your tickets now.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
This segment of Speed Freaks is brought to you by BetterHelp. Now, you hear us talk about constant travel, time commitments, and a slew of other life schedules. Throw in some unexpected curveballs that life throws our way. It's easy to get lost and in need of some guidance to get back on track. And that's where BetterHelp.com comes in. Go to BetterHelp.com/freaks and get 10% off your first month. Tap into the world's largest network of licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a range of issues, including depression, anxiety, relationships, grief, and more. With BetterHelp.com's therapist, you get the same quality you'd expect from an in-office therapist, but you can communicate with them when and how you want, anytime from anywhere. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/freaks for 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp. That's HELP.com/freaks.
The weekend racing is over, or is it? not on MAV TV. Monday is All-American Racing Night on the network which never leaves the track. Sit back and enjoy grassroots red, white, and blue racing from America's most iconic tracks. Whether it's the precise lines of pavement ovals or the door-banging action of the dirt, MAV TV's Monday night lineup will bring you all the action from this country's legendary four-wheel battlegrounds. Monday night is All-American Racing, only on MAV TV, Motorsports Network.
I have a feeling this won't be popular when I'm done. There's a mild controversy on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, surrounding the memory of Sherry Pollux, a warrior for NASCAR and an even greater warrior for the fight against cancer. Pollux died last Sunday after a 9-year battle with ovarian cancer. The issue is the social media response of former NASCAR and IndyCar driver Danica Patrick and a host of others. She nobly said Martin Truex's statement on the death of his former girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, and life partner didn't meet Patrick's expectations. She implied that a public relations person probably wrote the thing for Martin, and further that Danica didn't like Martin much anyway. This ongoing argument is the exact reason social media troubles me, as if what Truex says or doesn't say about the death of someone he loved and should meet the needs of anyone else, as if the keyboard warriors, including Danica, got up at 4 a.m. to hold Pollux while she vomited her guts out and wipe her tears when she was done, as if what went on between the two of them, Martin and Pollux, is any concern of anyone else, as if Truex and Pollux owe social media something for the way Sherry died or Martin responded to it. Arrogance can be so ugly sometimes, so ugly. So can social media. Peace.
We're going to wade in it a little bit here, Freak Nation, and hopefully make a connection to some of the older gentlemen who have run motorsport series. Maybe there are still some in current positions that we may or may not bring up in this conversation. But recently, there is a gentleman by the name of Jan Winter. He spell his name Jann. And if you don't know who this guy is, that's why I spelled it out for you. He's the cat who started Rolling Stone back in the day.
Well, he's a co-founder.
Co-founder. Yeah. Got it. Here's a guy that was part of the free speech movement. Gentleman, him and his buddies helped set lifestyle, music likes and dislikes, and really a generation before me to fully grasp. I'm sure Statman might be able to contribute much more than I could on this, but someone that was a cultural reference for decades, Rolling Stone in particular. And what Jan Winter is doing, and we're trying to cram this in 10 minutes, so my apologies if I'm jumping around here, but what Jan Winter is doing, coming up in a few days, he's releasing, at least as of this show, releasing a new book called The Masters, where he's interviewed 7 artists that hit his zeitgeist, artists that he felt were the best descriptions of rock and roll on this time on this planet.
Yeah, and these are major names: Springsteen, Jagger,
Bono, Bob Dylan.
Yeah, these are major people, huge names that, like, you would know without knowing their first name.
Jerry Garcia, Pete Townsend. 2 things that are missing. Well, one thing that is missing here: diversity. Imagine that. There's not a female and there's not a person of color in his Masters interview. He just feels that he used the word zeitgeist in one of his interviews. And there was one comment in particular, Statman, that grabbed me by the cojones, saying that with his selection, the people that had to meet a couple of criteria, but it was just kind of my personal interest and love of them. Insofar as the women, just none of them were as articulate enough on this intellectual level. Those are words that he used. So Joni Mitchell, Janis Joplin, Madonna.
None of those names you just gave were articulate or intelligent enough to be a part of the Masters. I'm glad that he said that this book was his personal selection, because clearly it is. It's not necessarily the overall umbrella of the greatest of all times. It's not a GOAT book. It's your personal collection of favorite interviews. Keep that word personal in there. That's all it
Statman,
is.
Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye. Nah.
Wow.
No. Right?
Barry Gordy.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, Barry Gordy changed the industry. That you could list a whole number of people. And the one thing that in the New York Times interview, I think it was they did an audio version of the interview. They said that he did talk to, oh, come on, give me the name, the guitar player. This name just flew out of my head. Jimi Hendrix. And he did talk to Jimi Hendrix, but both of them got wasted and they didn't know what they said. And he had to go back to the office and reassemble the interview. Now, who's inarticulate in that regard? The Rolling Stone that was started as his own company and his own thing through the years has been bought. And maybe this is the connection. Rolling Stone is now owned by Penske Media. Jay Penske, who used to be a team owner in IndyCar, now is a media maven, a media icon, a media master, maybe. But he owns Rolling Stone now. So the bottom line to the whole thing is that Winter was on the board of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, an institution that he implied that he started and he covered, and it wouldn't exist without him. That he's on the board there. The board found out about this a day or so after the interview, met, and in 20 minutes in front of Winter, voted him out of the hall.
Even giving him some opportunity to speak, a paragraph or 12, and still voted him out in 20 minutes.
Yeah, voted him out. Get out. We don't need this. Because the hall itself had experienced the same kind of thing up until about 3 or 4 years ago, where people were saying, hey, this is just a parade of white guys. There's not enough women. There's not enough people of color who are coming in here. It's a very real problem in rock and roll music. I remember you and I, Kenny, were talking about this earlier. I remember when the guy that owned the record shop where I bought my 45s came back from a conference and had to unload on me when rock and roll used to be black music and white music was popular. But they changed it at that. This was back in the early mid 60s. They confiscated the term rock and roll, and black music was rhythm and blues. And it's been the same ever since the last 50 years.
And the correlation between this and motorsports, not to soften what Statman said by any stretch, because that's personal. We've been involved in motorsports much longer than just this 23 years of doing SpeedFreaks. But within these 23 years, we've dealt with individuals that, frankly, should have been put out to pasture, that were, frankly, tripping over their long in the tooth scenario, that they should have been gone a long time ago, and brought someone in. Age to me is just a number. It's your thought process, whether you're thinking at 8 or 80. If you're 80, you can still think and be hip to a 40-year-old. It's just the way you approach your life at that time. And if you're running a company that needs to be hip and happening to what's going on right now, not what went down 20, 30 years ago, you got to get the hell out of there. It's going on to this day. Statman brought up this conversation, I think it was last segment, about Formula D, how Formula D is a younger motorsport. Frankly, it is. It is. And they've got younger people running that. They've got younger people owning teams. NASCAR is doing their best to bring in younger numbers as well. IndyCar
Evolve
series,
as necessary.
right? Look at the NHRA. 11,000 freaking horsepower. There are things going on inside those engines that, frankly, none of us could ever get our hands on. When we started this show, Sport Compact Drag Racing, Statman Statman introduced us to sport compact drag racing, where you can take 180 cubic inches and go 200 miles an hour. All right. The NHRA was still being governed by Wally Parks and Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I said Glenn.
No, but my point was, but they were poo-pooing Toyotas, Mazdas going down a racetrack.
Mm-hmm.
There's just a time to say, you know what? That pasture over there, but I've been kind of looking at, corner of my eye, sideballing it. Maybe I should just head over there and let somebody else do it. Statman, as the great mind of Muddy Waters probably uttered many times, but we had no idea he said this. Shoot the juice to the moose.
And cut it loose.
See ya.
Speed Freaks, Motorsports Radio, redefined.
Hey, Dad, what are you going to buy at the store today?
I'm out of Lucas Oil fuel treatment, so let's jump in here and grab us some.
Well, do they have the Lucas Oil parts cleaner and degreaser?
I bet they do.
Well, how about the Lucas Oil power steering fluid?
You know, they'll have that too.
Even the octane booster?
I won't be surprised if they do.
My favorite red and tacky grease?
Yes, they will, babe.
Dad, when we're done, can we grab some candy?
Deal, but you gotta share.
Awesome! Lucas works.
The weekend you've been waiting for is back. Are you ready to feel the ground shake? Are you ready for the sound of thunder? Are you ready for an adrenaline-pumping 3-second thrill ride? The NHRA Camping World Drag Racing Series returns to Worldwide Technology Raceway. See legendary superstars John Force, Ron Katz, Tim Wilkerson, Robert Hiding, and Tron Brown battling out for the countdown for the championship. September 29th through October 1st. Go to www.traceway.com to get your tickets now.
My second home is my car. I'm always headed to meetings or taking our daughter somewhere, and like you, I travel with valuables. So to keep those items safe, use the Headrest Safe. Go now to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Store cash, medication, cell phones, or firearms out of sight in your Headrest Safe. It's so easy to install the Headrest Safe, and your possessions will stay out of sight. Go to theheadrestsafe.com, use promo code FREAKS for $100 off your order. Theheadrestsafe.com, promo code FREAKS for $100 off.
Whatever you do, General Tire delivers.
The weekend racing is over, or is it? Not on MAP TV. Monday is All-American Racing Night on the network which never leaves the track. Sit back and enjoy grassroots red, white, and blue racing from America's most iconic tracks. Whether it's the precise lines of pavement ovals or the door-banging action of the dirt, MAP TV's Monday night lineup will bring you all the action from this country's legendary four-wheel battlegrounds. Monday night is All-American Racing, only on MAP TV, Motorsports Network.
You're listening to Speed Freaks.